All right, so introduction to mobile devices. How critical is it to secure a mobile device in today's business and at home? Okay.
Very,
Everyone uses them, yeah.
yeah,
They're everywhere. And we know what all these devices are because we've all have them or use them. We know tablets, smartwatch, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so different types of connectivity. Cellular is for cell phones, of course, but you can get tablets and things that have a mobile connection. So I'm guessing with the way our current internal Wi-Fi works, a lot of people have been inadvertently using a lot of their data because the Wi-Fi isn't working. So this is included in many plans now, like my plan has unlimited this. But is this going to be as fast as a good local wireless connection?
No.
no.
Nope. It's
I got
not.
it too.
Yeah, it's not going to be as good. So and we know out here that this doesn't always work. Theoretically, as you go from one tower to the next, things are supposed to transfer from one to the next seamlessly. It's also supposed to happen with Wi-Fi. You're supposed to be able to roam. But that's one of the issues they found is that the roaming is being killed. We talked about that in our meeting, our IT governance meeting. All right, so Bluetooth. Ooh, I need to bring in my Bluetooth spammer things. So between Bluetooth and USB, which is more secure?
I think USB is personal. If you take care of your USB, that is, and use a bit longer.
Well, in this case, they mean like, oh, we did it with Sarah.
Oh, you
the
mean
other
just
day.
plugging in something?
Yeah, we plugged it in and we transferred our pictures, right? Is that going to be secure? How likely is it somebody can get into that USB direct connection? Not very likely. Is it
Not
convenient?
unless they got a hold of it.
Well,
Unless they're physically there.
and they've been making those newer USBs too, where it scans all your info as it goes through them.
Right,
Yeah. Are you talking about hacker USB?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. I don't have one, but they do make them. So Bluetooth is very handy, but it also, some of the original specs are not encrypted.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much anyone can connect to Bluetooth if we got the
Yep.
right information.
In fact, that was happening 2 years ago. Apple has an AirDrop thing and students were airdropping not very appropriate photos apparently to other students.
it's because you can connect to everyone,
Yeah,
'cause I have AirDrop and I know.
yeah, and that's what happened. So Mike had to turn that off, which means
Yeah.
that our Raspberry Pi stuff, we couldn't do anything with it anymore. Because our stuff relies on peer-to-peer communication, so that was shut down. It used to be that we could run like our robots all over the building from sitting here, but unless we could, well, we could do a WNCC IoT and on every device, put one of those little routers on it. That would actually work.
Be interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we have other ways to get around stuff now. We have our own portable Heimdall, so we bring our own network with us. Bring your own device. So if you're in a business, you're gonna have one of these things. Here, we don't have a bring your own device because we don't use our personal mobile devices for business purposes, or do we? We don't store data on our phones as employees of WNCC. We use our phones to access cloud data, which is not the same as storing things on the phone, but who stores things on the phone anyway? So definitely WNCC is a BYOD. Our phones and our mobile devices do not have a business network to connect to. The only thing we can do is connect to the internet. So the business part of it is you have to be plugged in to be secure. And when you look between wireless and wired, we just had that conversation, which is more secure? Wired, because you have to either replace the cable or be right next to it or do something physically, or wireless is everywhere. You just have to sit in the parking lot, capture enough traffic and, buy a bot network and you can crack anything over given enough time and money. So corporate owned, I'm trying to think, yeah. For instance, Mike, he has a corporate owned, personally enabled, so he has a phone. I don't know if he can use it we'll have to ask him Friday. But he got a phone and a laptop and all that stuff that's owned by the company. So corporate owned personal enabled would mean that you can choose a device, but then you can also use it for your own stuff, call people on it. Choose your own device. And VDI, I'm not sure why that's in here, but it is. So VDI, we started to implement that here, which means that from home, I could have remoted in and worked on my computer here, just like I was here, my business computer, but they had all kinds of trouble and they were using Microsoft's Hyper-V and didn't really work. It was really hard to get anything to happen. So they ditched that project because really they needed a higher and more enterprise level of software, which we can't afford. Anyway, we've talked about all that already. Yep, we know about that. Yeah, we've done that. So we just talked about physical security, and the other side of it is it's easy. Well, as a matter of fact, lost, stolen, pickpocketed, like my phone was. And I did, as soon as I got to another device, I did send the wipe out the phone thing to them, but then you can only type in your code so many times and it won't let you in, so. And nothing has happened since then. I mean, nothing has happened. So I did change like a bunch of my passwords. So location tracking. So are you guys being GPS tagged as you use is your mobile device using geolocation?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's using it? But what's doing it?
Different applications that you use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
Can't turn
one?
it off.
Yeah, but what's one of the big companies that does that?
The only reason I'm on it is for like 360. So,
How about Google Maps?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one because I get an email every so often saying, "Oh, look at here, this is where you've been," and I'm thinking, okay, that's a little.
Photos will do that too, right?
Yep, they have embedded information called metadata,
Too bad.
and it will give you the latitude and longitude of where you took the photo and when, and your elevation and everything else. So yeah, when you take a picture on your phone, all that metadata is stored with the photo.
Or you Google something and soon you're on another app and you see what you Googled.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, they're not using but they are because when you signed up for the product, guess what? You agreed to all that stupid stuff. So these are a bunch of photos that were taken at various places, and yeah, there's our new thing. Everybody's happy. Okay, so I'm gonna save. Oh, yeah, let's save it. Save image as, because I don't have this locked down or anything. And you can only get a certain amount of information from a regular computer. But if I right click on this and go to properties, ooh, there we go. It will show me some information. I mean, it shows me how big it is, not a big deal. It doesn't have a digital signature. There we go. Dimensions, but it's not showing everything, but look at how much information it is showing. It was shot on a Galaxy S24. Well, guess what? That's exactly the phone I have. That's my new phone. This is not showing everything. I don't think this shows, we can't get to the information, but it will have the GPS and everything else in there. It's just that Windows doesn't show all that information, but it's all in there. It's just not, this isn't picking it up because it's not a sophisticated enough program. If you look at it in Photoshop, probably you'll see all that stuff. But then you can see all the metadata that's, stored in those little corners. And remember we did stenography? No, what is it? Steganography. Remember we did steganography? Well, those little extra slack spaces that can be filled by metadata, they're little extra spaces that's where our message was stored. So that is extra information. I guess I don't need that anymore. That's extra information about. That's what metadata means. It means about information, information about information. And so, yes, we're all being tracked. And yep, I tell you, Mr. Robot is getting really weird. It's like, well, I want some more of the hacking and stuff. But every time they talk about hacking, it's realistic. Where in many movies, and I thought about this when we talked about Bluetooth. What's the range of Bluetooth?
yeah, about like 5 meters.
Yeah, it's not very far. I mean, if you're trying to Bluetooth to your phone and you go out here, you're probably gonna get disconnected. So one of the things one of my favorite shows, was really funny. It was a great show, but they would do a Bluetooth hack or something, and they'd be monitoring a phone that was miles and miles away, which you can't do that. I mean, that's not realistic. It's limited, very limited. I
I'll
mean,
say a middleman, so where they're sending them to.
well, you'd have to have how many middlemen if you had, if they're miles away?
If you use Bluetooth to one and then use some other form of median.
Oh, okay, you'd bridge the Bluetooth. Yeah, that's not what they were doing. They were just thinking, they were going past that. All right, anyway. So we were doing tethering the other day to get some photographs off of somebody's phone. And here's what Owens wants. He wants a USB cable embedded with a Wi-Fi controller. But one of my projects is working on a bad USB, which has a Wi-Fi thing on it, so I can go in and change it and stuff. So don't be surprised someday if there's something you don't see that's getting your information. I've just been working on the fish have been taking my time right now, so I haven't gotten to that. But we know tethering is the best. On the go, yeah, you want to be careful what you plug in. All right. There, jailbreak it. We were talking about that the other day and for something. What were we gonna jailbreak something for? Oh, it's a sideload an app.
Yeah.
Android, I'm working on a project with a student to do a Windows and an Android app. And I thought, well, before I do anything with her, I probably need to figure out how to do it myself. So I discovered on an Android phone, you don't have to root it. You can kind of sideload it by turning it into developer mode, just like with the Oculus. You have to turn the Oculus headset into developer mode. Owen is doing a project, a NASA project, where he's developing a VR landscape. Oh, you should have brought your drawing in to show everybody your creative, artistic talent. Oh, you have it? Okay. Anyway, when you're creating a VR scene, one of the things I suggested to Owen is kind of storyboard it. That's what they do in movies, and he did. And his drawing ability is about as good as mine. Stick figures and yeah. But it gives you something to plan and think through as you're developing it. Yeah. I mean, I'm making fun of it, but I'm no better than he is. And but it's a good way to plan out what you're going to do and think through it, even though I like to make fun of him. Which is the same thing with an Android. You can put it into developer mode and then you can upload because actually Oculus headsets and Oculus headsets use Android. And so the executable file is the same type of file. Of course, it's accessing different hardware, so software has to be written completely differently. But it's like in Windows, we can make Windows programs with C++, C#, all this stuff. It works on the same device. All right, so here is where we are. We're going to include a QR code in our project. Have you made the one with the malicious URL yet? Say, we have 2 QR codes. Take your chances. One will connect you to the Wi-Fi. The other one may or may not.
May or may not be ransomware.
It may or may not be ransomware. Okay, maybe we won't do that. But yeah, QR codes is a deal, and we had an assignment on that. So is it a good idea to have more than one type of authentication anywhere?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
how many of you have multi-factor with your bank, for example?
For what?
With your bank? Do you do online banking?
I have 3.
So 3 different methods, or you have to use 2 different methods at the same
I
time?
have 3 different ones. For initial login, it's biometrics, but for resetting, I'm pretty sure it's phone. And that's non-negotiable. I don't think you can use an app.
Okay,
So
how about anybody else?
I think I have a dual log or dual authentication for my banking. Yeah.
Banks should have 2-factor authentication if they don't. Yeah, I do my online banking through an app with Platte Valley. And let's see, I have to unlock the app and then I either put in a password or my thumbprint, but it activates, it's like coming through the phone before I can look at my online stuff. So it's like 2 different things.
Well, they also have 2-factor authentication just for getting on the WNCC. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's going to become more and more prevalent because what that does is it takes care of something called dictionary attacks and stuff. You can't repeatedly log in if you can't even get to the point And you have two different ways to authenticate. How do you spoof that? You have to be able to get past one to get to the next. And how do you duplicate my finger? Cut it off and take it with you. I mean, if you could repeatedly try a password, that's one thing, but can you repeatedly try a finger or face like the Apple has? Does Android have face recognition?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't turned that on.
You do a finger if you get the fingerprint.
Okay, I like the finger one. My new phone has a finger one right in the middle of the front. And I always had trouble with the one back here before because I could never get my finger lined up. I can line my finger up with that because it's on the front
I
of the
would have
phone.
that for the iPhone with the phone, on
Mhm.
the Face ID better. But that,
So these are 4 different things, and multi-factor means you have to use 2 of them. Because I know I see some people doing like this sometimes, visual people probably like that because they can see it in their head. A pin as good as a longer password? Pins can be limited. My new phone forced me to have a 6-digit pin.
Really?
Yeah.
yeah, that's what mine has.
Newer phones they're upping the ante. That doesn't mean you can't have more,
No,
but if you're forced to have 6, who's gonna go to 8 or 10? I didn't even do that. I just went to 6.
convenience factor.
Yeah, we all are. I mean, we're wired to conserve energy. Because who knows when the next antelope comes along that we need to kill so we can eat again. So we're wired to conserve energy and take the path of least resistance. That's how we're wired. So thankfully we have that prefrontal cortex that can override that sometimes. All right, so segmentation. Owen and I have been working with segmentation here with the aquaponics. So we have the WNCC Internet Plus, which is public internet access. No, people have been calling it Internet Minus because it keeps dropping people. And if you're not paying attention, you don't even know you're not on it anymore because your mobile data takes over. So that network is separated from the one Owen and I have been working with, which is the WNCC IoT network. So what is IoT?
Internet of Things.
And what sort of devices are in an IoT classification category?
Printers, cameras, TVs.
Yeah, they have all those devices, different devices on there, the copiers, yeah, all that stuff that is not a computer where you type stuff in. Computers that you type stuff in for our business are connected only by a physical wire. There's not a business wireless yet, but that's, I'm sure, up further along. So we've been trying to get our little Raspberry Pi for our fish cam connected. We have a few issues, but I think we're good. But that's separated from the public Wi-Fi, which is separated from, of course, this room is separated from everybody, which is good because we do stuff here that we could upset the regular network. So it's a good thing we're separated. And we also have, what's the other one? The business office. They have their own network, which I'm not even sure. Yeah, our faculty office and stuff are connected to a separate wired network. That's the business network. So we have several different containers. So containers or segmentation means that, segmentation is what it's called. You have different networks that don't really interact with each other. And that's a way of keeping, if somebody can hack into this room, that doesn't mean they can go anywhere else in WNCC at all. Unless Mike has really bad passwords on his main router, which then they could use that to go somewhere else. Because the main router at our point where we connect to the internet, that main router, everybody passes through. All right, so loss or theft services. I tell you, if your phone gets stolen and they turn it off or they pull the SIM or whatever they did, you can't remote wipe it. I tried as soon as I could to remote wipe it. Yeah, never came back saying it was wiped. So I'm sure immediately they powered it off or whatever, so they could refurbish, wipe it out and sell it to somebody else. And I did see the last known location. It was right where I was standing when the guy pickpocketed me or where I was walking. Oh, yeah, I didn't get a picture taken. I don't know. I don't know that I have that set up. I didn't know you could do such a thing.
I know mine does.
I have to look that up. This would be automatic. The other part, the remote wipe, is a standard part of Google's phones, which has been there forever. I mean, Android phones, which has been there forever. but you have to do it manually. I think if you type in I'll have to look that up. How many times you can type in the passcode before it wipes out your machine. Oh, now we're at businesses. One of my students, former students that works at Regional West, and this is what she does. She works on their mobile device management system. So she's in charge of managing all the can you imagine how many portable devices they have at the hospital? Not just phones and tablets, but all those wireless things that they walk around and do tests with and all that. So she manages all that from a central console. That's a lot. I imagine most mobile device management systems also manage applications. I mean, updating applications, making sure the firmware is up to date on the phone, that sort of thing. I don't know about these guys, this one here, but unified endpoint management is what we're calling it now, or endpoint management rather than an antivirus on the computers. We're calling it endpoint management because we're doing more than just keeping out viruses. We're watching for weird activity on the phone, or device, device, the computer. It's like Symantec several years ago, they call it Symantec endpoint protection. So everybody started calling it because it's doing more than just viruses, looking for other bad behavior. Okay, we're not going to check in. So an embedded system is IoT. Embedded system means that it's TV is always a TV. That's all it does. It's a TV. It can be a monitor, but it's still a monitor TV. Andy's computer, however, can work with Photoshop. He could hack the Kremlin from there. He could also watch Facebook. So these are general purpose computers that can do multiple things. So these aren't considered embedded systems. This is an embedded system. The access point's an embedded system, meaning it does one thing really well. Like in a manufacturing plant, my sister works at a manufacturing plant. They have all kinds of robots doing things and welding and stuff. Those are all embedded systems because they do one thing really well. They weld rims together, but you can't go on them and play Tetris, probably. I don't think you can play Tetris on it. I'll have to ask her. She can ask the engineers. So an embedded system, is that different than IoT? Not really. No, it's an embedded system, just means that it's it does one thing really well. Now, here's our Raspberry Pi. Is a Raspberry Pi similar to an Arduino? No, not really. A Raspberry Pi is a computer. An Arduino is an embedded system. And Arduino does one thing over and over again really well. So it's used for prototyping things like these, but a Raspberry Pi is a computer. It's a general purpose computer like everything else we have in this room. And I don't know, oh, and Raspberry Pi is also a system on a chip. It has everything on one single chip. Yeah, we don't need to go there. So real-time operating system means there's no delay. It happens right now in real time. Yeah, we don't need to go there. So if you have not heard about this one, has everybody heard of Stuxnet? Oh boy, this is like one of the
worst attacks in history.
It was like one of the worst, but also one of the most unique. And there's the attacks that are remembered, like Stuxnet and the Marikai one, are remembered because they were the first time something that had actually happened. Before that, it was just proof of concept. So Stuxnet happened, I think, at least 10 or 15 years ago. Yeah, 2010. So 15 years ago.
Well,
So, excuse me?
I'm still in school.
I heard there's like a lot of code, like thousands of lines.
What they did is they smuggled in a flash drive, and somehow, because these systems, these Iran nuclear systems, were all separated physically. So somehow physically they had to get something in there. And I think what happened is somebody had this software on there. It was very sophisticated. So they think it was done by a nation state, like they're thinking probably Israel. And it may be many people worked on it together. We don't know. For sure. But and we don't need to know, because the theory of it is what we're after. Somehow somebody got a flash drive in there and that started infecting their systems, which are supervisory control and data acquisition. So those are specifically manufacturing systems designed to control manufacturing machines. Like where my sister works, they'd have a SCADA system that's responsible for all the robots. And Dan, one of our instructors, used to work for a pharmaceutical company, a company that made pharmaceutical making machine. And they would have these controllers in them. And if you can physically get that in there, what it did is it told the centrifuges to spin fast, but to report back that they're going the same speed. So yeah, Stuxnet was like the first time something like this had happened. And it's the same as the Mirai botnet. It's Mirai botnet. There we go. This one targeted DNS. And what happened was, it was a bunch of IoT devices that were not secured, that had like root or root nothing or root password, very common stuff. So that they wrote scripts that went around and found all these things and turned them all into denial of service attack, meaning they just keep asking over and over again for a DNS request. And if you get so many requests, any server has a limited capacity. At some point, it's going to get overwhelmed and not be able to do anything. And that's a denial of service. So all these millions of cameras and devices and stuff, yeah, they overloaded it. Of course, that was patched and fixed and all that stuff, but it took things out for a while. And DNS is critical. If DNS doesn't work, you have to know the IP address. So this took down everything, but it was the first really big one that people noticed. Mirai is very famous in the cybersecurity. I'm sure there's been others events since then, but these are two big turning points, so to speak. They weren't really good turning points, but they are, Oh, I should figure out how to hack my meter. My meter in the back of my house, both my gas meter and my electrical meter, they're all electric. So I should figure out some way to turn it back, right?
I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
Pretty sure, yeah.
You get in trouble, yeah.
And does everybody drive an embedded system to school? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
then.
kinds of systems and cars.
Yeah, unless you have like a 1960 Mustang or something, pre-electronic ignition, with everything in it, you're writing an embedded system. Isn't that good to know? Oh yeah, look at that, embedded systems in cars. I did find out something about, they had a solar car thing come through here a couple summers ago, and I went out to see what it was about. And there was a bunch of college students from various universities were in a challenge to go like so far and go so fast and only use solar power and all that. And I found out that there's actually a network in cars called CAN Car Area Network. And it's called a CAN bus. And all of our cars have it. And they built their own so they could run their car. I didn't know there was such a thing until I went to that. That was interesting. So you can hack the CAN bus, CANBUS. And that's what all of our cars run. CANBUS. Controller Area Network, bus. It's a message-based communication protocol. Oh, this is just like ROS. It's the same thing. You have nodes sending messages between each other. So it's kind of like a little peer-to-peer network with all these devices talking to each other. And remember, I've said several times over the last week or so about this Eli 5 business. There it is. Explain it like I'm 5. I probably haven't said it in this class. I know Owen's heard it. Eli 5, Eli 10. Yeah. So that's just a saying meaning don't use acronyms. But then it says explain it like I'm 5, and it starts out with a serial data bus, the ECU. Yeah, that's not explaining it like I'm 5. What 5-year-old is going to know what serial means? They're going to think a bus is where the wheels go around and around. No, seriously, that's what they're going to think.
Yeah.
All right. So interestingly enough, I have a couple classes where students do scans of their own network. Sometimes they get confused and scan like a network that is not theirs, and sometimes they scan the virtual network and they show no devices. But yes, I have noticed that over time, the amount of devices in people's houses, because Ring doorbells, garage openers, it's, average anymore is 10 to 15 or more devices when people scan it, which I found very interesting, which means more attack surface in our little houses. let's see. And so many modern routers, which Owen found out our router in the creative space has, have specific IoT networks. Most of them prior to that point had the regular Wi-Fi and a guest Wi-Fi. And I didn't know we had it in ours, but Owen set up something on the IoT network. So it's a specific network disconnected from everything else, kind of like we've done here. So I didn't know that like home routers had that capability. So you can put all your IoT devices over here, and then they're separated from your main wireless. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Most of them are just your wireless, and I think that's wireless. We need to get wireless, the IoT,
But I didn't know that they would have a designated IoT
Yeah.
network.
this one.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, I think we're about. Does anybody remember which one of these is found on an embedded system? Real-time operating system, system on a chip. That's an on-the-go connection. I don't know what that means. Can you cope with anything? I don't know.
I'm thinking an SoC, but I'm not, R2.
A system on a chip, like a Raspberry Pi, typically uses a real-time operating system, but a Raspberry Pi doesn't. So you could think of an Arduino as a system on a chip, but it's not a real-time operating system either. And I think, yeah, we're not going to talk about the Whittle model there. In software development, this is old news. This is what we do now, which is basically the waterfall model that happens every 2 weeks. So there is an area of security and computer science that's called SecDevOps. Don't you like these names? Good grief. So it is development of software for a company internally, like Cabela's builds their own website, or they did before they got bought out. They also have operations people that implement it. And they had another part that did security. Well, they started calling it SecDevOps because those three have to work together. And so that's a place where someone who knows security, who knows how to develop code and operations could be a good manager for that because they'd understand a little bit of all worlds. So interesting. Agile development means that you turn around your code every couple of weeks and it works, and you fix things a little bit at a time. So how often do you get updates on your phone? You don't get one a year like we used to in the old days. You get one every week or something. So they're constantly finding bugs, fixing them, sending out little updates, which is a better way to do it than just waiting 2 years before you finally have this polished product. And then everybody else has already built it before you, and you go broke. You know, you develop your product a little bit at a time. I advocate that in all my programming classes. When you're working on something, start small, get that part to work, go to the next one, then get that part to work, then go to the next one. All right. Yeah, and there's automated tools for looking at code and finding security holes. Like fuzzing, I always thought was an interesting one. It just provides random input to try to figure out if they can make the program crash. I always thought that was interesting. Now we know about exception handling, right? Exceptions can cause all kinds of interesting things. And I think we're about at the end. Dynamic code, self-assessment. You feel like you're more secure after the last 15 minutes? Hmm? Yes.
I'd say I'm about as secure as I ever was.